Hey there, my name is Cindy Davis, Content Director for AV Technology, and I'm really excited to have Eric Brooks, Audio Engineer, and Rob Viers, the Director of Classroom AV Services from Virginia Tech, to discuss a recent classroom AV project and their connected classrooms. So, welcome, Eric and Rob. Really thrilled to have you here.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
So, hey, you know what? If you would, just tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do at Virginia Tech.
Sure. Thanks, Eddie. My name is Eric Brooks. I'm the audio engineer at Virginia Tech. My primary role is commissioning, designing, programming, implementing audio systems across campus, whether it's an auditorium, meeting space, classroom, so all the above. I'm Rob Byers. I'm the director of Classroom AV Services. I do the bulk of the engineering and design work for renovations, capital construction projects, things like that. And then, of course, trying to make sure that we have the right people in the right places to maintain our 350 spaces. So
Just 350.
that's it. Yeah, just a couple.
Well, I understand that you recently finished uh, a new classroom update or upgrade, if you would. So tell us a little bit about that and what was the impetus for this upgrade?
It was a very substantial upgrade. So the main piece behind it is, you know, pre-pandemic, everybody kind of got used to doing some activity in Zoom and things, but after 2020, it just became a real reality for everybody, right? And so for our president's council and some of the other higher end administrative sessions that we would have, they not everybody could always be there in person, so they were doing a lot more hybrid meetings. A lot of people joining from remote, and the feedback that we were getting is basically that the experience that they were having when they were remote wasn't the same as if they were working off a laptop, right? When it came to the room itself, you would look in, and when you're watching on Zoom and you just see a wide shot of faces, it's difficult to see who's talking and whatnot. So what we started doing is for every president's council, we would bring in a full video production suite, had 40 microphones and four cameras, and we'd have operators running everything just to provide that realistic feeling of an actual video production on the opposite end for the people on the web call. And to say, I mean, that is a huge undertaking. We're talking 6, 8 people, 6, 8 hours of setup, teardown, and it took a lot of time and a lot of people to wrangle all of that, right? And so we knew that we wanted to find a location to house that, as well as other events, special guest speakers, different things. And we were able to locate a space and went ahead with the design and implemented it. And it turned out really well. We're really happy with it. It's a pretty high end space that's very versatile. I'd call it a multi purpose, successful space.
Nice. So we'll come back to that, but I also want to ask you a little bit about uh, this is not the only space that you have as a connected space. Tell us a little bit about your overall uh, classrooms and connected spaces.
Yeah, so I mentioned we have 350 spaces. The biggest thing for us is standardization, unification. It makes life easier on end users here at Virginia Tech. So whether you come to the Blacksburg campus or you're at the Northern Virginia campus or the soon to upcoming Innovation campus, no matter where you're at, we want you to have that same look and feel when it comes to engaging with the technology. And so we kind of blanket, similar sources. We're big on bring your own device, BYOD, and we don't actually support computers in many of the classrooms. So that BYOD has to be an open and inviting for everybody. So a lot of what we were doing post 2020 is installing cameras and microphone systems like the ones in this room that we're utilizing right now, for people to do web conferencing, whether it's Zoom, Teams, GoToMeeting, Google Meet, what have you. But we make these devices basically turn the room into one giant webcam, so they can just plug a USB into their computer and utilize whatever software that they want. And it's been very popular. We're trying to get it into every single space. Of course, budget, time, don't always allow that. But I'd say we're probably about 50%, something like this. Yeah. So we're utilizing it in as many locations as possible. and it's like I said, it's popular.
Nice. So audio, if anything came out of the well, many things unfortunately came out of the pandemic, but if anything came out of it, it's the need for quality audio, and that's, uh, it sounds like that's one of the things that you did here as well. So, talk about what those recent changes are. You've already started with that, and how that really helps enable teachers and students to hear and comprehend better than they did before.
That's a really great point. So pre 2020, audio was always a consideration in our designs. Why not a primary focus? It was definitely a consideration as far as local reinforcement into the space through handheld microphones, lapel microphones, really just kind of keeping it into that voice lift atmosphere. Post 2020, like Rob had mentioned, everyone was used to having a call that was pretty clear audio. You know, your face was really close to the laptop screen. You could hear everyone really well. So when we started to come back in person, we really had to take audio into account as far as when folks are in these hybrid settings, they're used to hearing clear audio from their local Zoom calls. So, or whatever software they're using. So, really, it helped us shift and design our focus to implementing ceiling microphones, making sure that whatever audio we had in the classroom was clear, concise for the students who are local, but also clear for the students or faculty, whoever's on the far end of the call, so that they feel like they can be a participant in the meeting as well. So it really took a lot of more or less going back to the drawing board, looking at different ceiling microphones, looking at different applications, making sure that everything was mixed down to that simple USB output so that as soon as they plug in, it's a clear, seamless audio experience for, like I said, students in the room and on the far end. So that kind of really helped with this multi-purpose room that Rob had mentioned a minute ago that we designed. Our higher end executives and administrators at the university expect that, and we will. That's the level of quality we have been giving them. So we really needed to take into consideration the design aspects. So we looked into a trusted brand name with Panasonic, and we implemented 44 microphones so that each person who's speaking in the space has a local gooseneck microphone and they can easily, the cameras will switch to them, they can press their microphone, talk, it's clear proximity directly to the microphone, and it's just a really crystal clear audio experience on the far end. So, you know, we had that with Panasonic 44 microphones. It was definitely a gamble. Doesn't matter what brand you're using, 44 microphones in a space, it's kind of intimidating, but
It's a dice roll.
yeah, it was. It was a big gamble, and Rob, with his guidance, we rocked it out, put it in the space, and everyone's been really happy with the experience so far.
And to that point too, you mentioned that switching it over to USB. That's something that anybody can they have experience with plugging in a USB to their device, right? And making that and USB is more or less universal as well. So even though that system has 44 microphones and it's very complex, to the end user, it's just a USB, which is kind of special when you think about it.
That is pretty special, and pretty amazing. So, if you wouldn't mind helping paint a picture of that a little bit more clearly, tell us about that room, and is that in how many rooms do you have that set up in?
So this setup is a very specialized use case. Now, granted, we have ceiling microphones and cameras in, like Rob had mentioned, about 50% of our classrooms. To deliver that hybrid experience. But we have a few highly specialized rooms like this. But this one's definitely one of a kind in the sense of we don't really provide that many microphones to the general end user. These are higher level executives who really are used to that dynamic, would like to have their voice amplified in the room, and want that clear experience per person to the far end. And that's kind of what they've come to expect. So um, that's more or less kind of the design, and the room is has a modality where it can shift into a couple different formats, but the primary focus is to be able to have that large level executive conferencing experience in this space. So
Yeah, to put it in perspective, the room has 5 projectors, 2 televisions, 3 ceiling-mounted microphones, and 11 cameras on top of the 44 microphones, and so on and so forth. So, like I said, the room itself had to be very versatile, so that a standard class could hold session very easily. we could shift into what we call the governance mode. That would be when President's Council or what have you needed to happen. And then we also have like special guest layouts as well. And what's really powerful about that space is the microphones work in conjunction for voice lift, but they also work to help trigger camera presets out in the space. So it's doing a lot, but it really makes it feel like you have a natural broadcast environment where several years ago we'd be looking at like I said, a team of people to help do this, and really the room itself is more autonomous. There's one person basically advancing slides, and everything else just works.
The audio system just works.
Audio system just works. Yeah.
Yep.
So there's nobody that has to be there switching microphones or
These our executive level folks, a lot of their meetings aren't just somebody reporting on something. They're actual conversations that are going back and forth, and it's important for people on Zoom to be a part of that. And the people in the room, you might be sitting in one opposite end of one another, but being able to have that communication, be heard intelligently through the system, be heard intelligently over the web conference or live stream even, all of those things become really important. And like I said, it just works.
Yeah, and then one other thing to note is the planning that went into the space as well. It definitely Rob has a genius design. It was more or less a dream cocktail napkin, and we put it together, and it's really took a lot of planning on the front end. But with that being said, there's a lot going on between the planning and on the back end. It took a lot of setup, but over the course of roughly a week and a half of between our great installation team, programmer, it all kind of came together, and the end user's been incredibly happy with it, and it really just makes, like we said, a simple USB connection, and no one's the wiser as to the smoke and mirrors behind the curtain. So
yeah, I probably wouldn't be a good manager, director, whatever you want to call me, if I didn't brag on the team. Like he said, the installation team, we did that fully in house. So from design to commissioning, installation, everything was done fully in house, and it's guys like him and the rest of the team that really make that happen. So and making it continue to tick, preventive maintenance, different things like that. It's very blessed to have a good quality crew.
let's talk a little bit about the room that you're in now. You said there's an in-ceiling microphone system there.
I'll tackle that. Basically, this is more or less a standard classroom setup for us. We have a rear camera, as we're looking into now, and then we have podium, credenza, that basically everything comes back to one central station. We have two televisions behind us. You're allowed to select route, move things where you'd like to. Camera comes out via USB. The ceiling mic also comes across USB as well. Handheld microphone and a lapel microphone all get mixed down to that USB output for the end user to be able to walk in and have that bring your own device modality where they can just plug and play, and they get access, like I said, to the camera, to the microphone, whatever they need for the particular use case of their class, meeting, seminar, whatever they're doing. So,
And this is a Panasonic ceiling microphone.
yeah,
Well.
good note. Yeah, that's what we're recording with currently. Yeah.
Yeah. So the audio that you're hearing is actually coming across that. We're not mic'd. This is just the ceiling microphone. Let's say we're what, about 8 feet away from it?
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so one ceiling microphone in that room.
Yep. That's it.
And how big of a space is that?
I'd say it was roughly 30 by 30.
Yeah.
This room.
So it's ideal for that style microphone.
An average classroom size?
Uh, Roughly. We have some larger ones, like most higher ed. Your entry level courses are often taught in larger spaces, but yeah, a lot of ours, when you get into the upper level courses, you're in a 25, 30, 40 person space, and that's what this one is. So
And so that one mic covers the whole classroom just fine.
yeah. As an instructor, I could, if I was teaching the course, I could stand at the front. This Panasonic, the ceiling microphone allows for an extension out for to add a couple more Dante channels for lapel or handheld or what have you. So if I was an instructor, if I had a long day, I can utilize that and not have to speak very loud. But I'm not exactly yelling right now. I'm just more or less talking. So the microphone does a great job picking that up, and then it'll also pick up any of the student questions. And when it comes to hybrid learning environments, it's really important for the people on the opposite end of the web call to be able to hear the students ask questions as well, because that's part of learning. You might learn a little bit. The topic might be a little heavy coming from the instructor, but maybe somebody in the class could break it down a little bit differently and help the understanding pass along.
Now, how's that different from the classrooms, microphone classrooms that you've had in the past?
Well, I'd say it's really shifted. I mean, pre 2020, I mean, the simple fact of really it was more student um, based as far as projector to student in the room voice lift systems. I mean, they would walk around with a lapel, a handheld microphone, something relatively straightforward. We really did not, unless it was a specialized room, provide a lot of microphones. It was very straightforward and very simple. So post 2020, we really needed to have those ceiling microphones so that any person in the space, any voice, anything could get captured and delivered to that far end, that end user. So we really transitioned to a lot of ceiling microphones, and we've tried out a lot of different brands, a lot of different just styles of ceiling microphones, and we were really excited with Panasonic coming online with their ceiling mic. It's a name that we can trust, and we've really been happy with the implementation. Just to be able, like I said, to deliver that clear experience no matter what the scenario is. It allows for a lot of flexibility. When you get past just the handheld and lapel microphone, you really gain a lot more flexibility from the ceiling microphones themselves.
Yeah, pre 2020 to have a similar experience, you'd actually have to go around and hand a student a microphone, or you have to install a microphone for every couple of students that's push to talk and what have you. And that's just not feasible in today's learning environments. Learning environments these days have a lot more flexible furniture. So you got, this room is a great example. We have nesting tables and chairs that are all on casters, so you can move them around and have any variety of different layouts. Same goes for that governance room I was mentioning earlier. It was important to have that feature, so we can't have wires running across the floor and making hardwired connections that are disconnectable at any time. It just doesn't work out. Floor boxes are expensive, coring floor, trenching the floor, all of those things. There's structural concerns and everything like that. So going north with it and looking at ceiling space and everything just started to make sense. And we've even done throwable microphones that work great in auditoriums where we don't have the option to put in ceiling microphones just based off infrastructure alone. So we've experimented and dabbled in quite a bit. But
Yeah, and it's been really, like, from an audio perspective, a learning curve, as far as being able to make sure that all mics more or less mix well together and provide that concise output where if a student speaks, it takes priority over the professor speaking with their lapel microphone. And there's a lot of back and forth there. And it took, for myself, honestly, there was over that first year or so after 2020, a lot of trial and error. And I feel like we've come to a place where we're pretty happy with it now. And it really just kind of handles itself. It's thoughtless. The professor can rely on just having access to whatever they need, audio wise, for their class and their space. So
So you mentioned a couple of things that really remind me of like an overall ecosystem. And how important was it for you in choosing your microphone system to integrate into an overall ecosystem?
at the end of the day, it all boils down to we have a really great team, but we're realistic. It's a campus, and the rooms are booked pretty solidly unless it's summertime. But even then, we are really backlogged. We do a lot of in-house installations, so time is of the essence, more or less, when it comes to installing, commissioning, and just deploying these systems. So keeping everything in an ecosystem, um, it really helps. It really helps for the programming aspect of it, from the deployment aspect and the tuning and setup installation. Yeah. So I mean, it really that all plays into the picture, and it really just helps speed up the process. Where we're not cutting any corners by having it in one ecosystem. It's just a matter of we can do it and rely on it, and it's consistent every time, and it just plays well together. Everything just works nicely when it's kept relatively close in an ecosystem.
yeah, I mentioned earlier, our method of um, unification and standardization makes the end user feel good. It makes it easy for them not to have to relearn every single system. Same goes true for our technicians, right? So if we get called out due to an issue in a space, having things in a similar ecosystem, it just means that that technician is more comfortable. They're not having to learn a variety of different products from every single different manufacturer under the sun. There's a lot of people who make projectors. There's a lot of groups that make displays. A lot of people who make microphones, and we have a lot of that out in population. But we try and narrow that down to help cut down on not only installation time, but that post triage time. Like what's going on? How do we troubleshoot it? Is this an issue that we've seen before? Is this a firmware thing? So on and so forth. So that becomes kind of very very important as well.
Absolutely.
It's interesting to have this be very audio centric uh, uh, call because we don't get to too often have those, which is great because it's so important. But you mentioned obviously you have lots of projectors and displays in each of these rooms, and are they part of that overall ecosystem as well?
Yeah, so the room that I mentioned earlier, the large governance space, all five of those projectors are Panasonic. The two displays at the back of the room are Panasonic. So we've been utilizing those products for years now. When we first heard about the Pro Audio line, it was at a trade show, and picked up the microphone. I was like, wow, that's really light. And, oh, one battery, and it was one of those things like I had no idea that Panasonic was doing it, and then opened up conversations with Eric, the audio engineer, obviously, and we took the chance on one of them, and it worked really well, and then that just continued to broaden. So yeah, we have some Panasonic cameras out in population as well. That particular room I mentioned doesn't they're not Panasonic in there, but there's a lot of that ecosystem that is.
So, kind of at a high level, technology is always evolving. 5 years ago, you probably didn't expect that you'd be in a room like this one. How do you really position yourself so that you're not ripping and replacing, and that you're future proofing?
Oh, it's like you know, peering into a crystal ball, right? What's coming next? A lot of what we do these days is IP based. So we're trying to stay away from hardwire connectivity. So like our cameras, we're trying to go a lot more NDI if at all possible. Certainly looking at PoE for powering them and different things like that. Um, so I'd say leveraging the network as much as possible. Um, in regards to future proof, I think the industry and not only higher ed but the AV broader industry really needs to embrace what's coming on people's personal devices, USB-C, right? So embracing USB-C in some way, shape, or form, you're gonna have to. We're all gonna have to figure out how to deliver power and video output and peripherals like cameras and microphones and make that a more conducive experience rather than asking, we're a BYOD campus, so asking faculty to bring a dongle every single time and run the risk of leaving a dongle behind or what have you. So I think embracing that, and then kind of like what we did over in that space. I think more autonomy when it comes to these connected environments, where we might have two cameras, and when a student speaks, it automatically switches the camera so that the instructor doesn't have to to hit a button on a touch panel. Not that there's anything wrong with hitting a button, but here we are talking about how important audio is to conference calls. It's just going to circle back around to video as well. Once you have audio figured out, then what's the next step? Logically, let's make the video better, and that experience is going to come by making the microphone trigger the cameras to help make that environment a little bit more natural.
It just to add kind of a more like lower level aspect of future proofing is when it comes to like the wireless mics, for instance. Looking at getting away from the RF based microphones towards like Panasonic, they provide the microphones that are the DECT 1.9 gigahertz system, gigahertz range rather, and that really helps because we're constantly losing frequencies in having to do a lot of RF coordination across campus. So it really helps to be able to have that 1.9 gigahertz where it kind of just works, and we really just that is a way to future proof our audio because we're who knows 5 years from now what range frequencies we're going to have, and we'll have to do a lot of microphone replacements if these frequencies disappear. So
Right.
Just works is always great, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely.
Nice. So if you wouldn't mind, if you could kind of encapsulate, what this means to your instructors and, student outcomes overall.
So, like I said, I think unification and ease of use for the instructors certainly, that experience that they have, and that they're not they're not there to have to take time to make modifications to the AV setup every single time they want to teach. They're there to pass along knowledge to the students, and so the if we can make systems that are more autonomous and easy to use, and they don't have a heavy learning curve by any means, they're not having to fiddle with audio adjustments and things like that. I think that's what really speaks volumes for the faculty and the students bringing in this type of technology for them. This is post 2020. We've seen not only an uptick in web conferencing but also an uptick in lecture capture. So that transfer of knowledge from the instructor to the student doesn't always necessarily have to happen in that class. Now the lecture can be recorded, watched later on the LMS, learning management system. And so it gives those students a little bit more of a variety of content that they can absorb the knowledge from. So I think it's very impactful across both bases.
Great. Well, it's been an amazing conversation. Can't wait to follow up with you and see what new evolutions will be coming for your classrooms.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate the time.